Beach at Archer Park. This cowardly act of terrifying violence is shocking and painful to see and represents some of our worst fears about terrorism in Sydney. I very sadly need to report that as of now, there are at least 12 individuals that have been killed. One of the offenders has also been killed and one is in custody. This attack was designed to target Sydney's Jewish community on the first day of Hanukkah. What should have been a night of peace and joy celebrated in that community with families and supporters has been shattered by this horrifying, evil attack. Commissioner Lanyon will speak about the investigation, the police response, as well as the designation of this attack as a terrorism event in Sydney. I can assure the community it will be met with a massive, comprehensive police and public order response. Our heart bleeds for Australia's Jewish community tonight. I can only imagine the pain that they're feeling right now to see their loved ones killed as they celebrate this ancient holiday. It's the responsibility of all Australians to wrap their arms around Australia's Jewish community and help them get through this incredibly difficult period. This is a massive, complex and just beginning investigation. It's just begun, and there are things that tonight we don't have the answers to. However, we do have answers to some crucial pieces of information for our wonderful city and our beautiful state. The first one is the outpouring of love and support from ordinary Australians for Australia's Jewish community is real. Secondly, today is another example of the enormous pressure and responsibility, the danger that New South Wales Police regularly face as part of their job. They do it without faltering. They didn't falter today. We need them. And thirdly, tonight saw extraordinary acts of personal courage and bravery from individuals in our community. And I think it's worth remembering that in all of this evil, in all of this sadness, there are still wonderful, brave Australians that are prepared to risk their lives to help a complete stranger. Mel?
Thank you, Premier. Good evening. Premier has outlined the brief circumstances this evening. I'll go through them again. They're more than happy to take some questions. About 6:47 p.m. this evening, police started to receive a number of reports of shots fired at Archer Park at Bondi. Archer Park is a grassed area just north of the Bondi Pavilion. Police responded promptly. Unfortunately, at least 12 people are deceased at this time. 29 people have been transported to various hospitals around the Sydney area, including 2 police officers. The condition of those officers and the other transported are serious, but there is a range of conditions. Our thoughts, prayers and love go to all the families and all of those that were involved tonight. We know that there were many people there to celebrate a happy occasion, the celebration of Hanukkah, and there was well over 1,000 people there when this took place. As a result of the circumstances of the incident tonight, at 9:36 p.m. this evening, I declared this to be a terrorist incident. I have also authorised special powers under Section 5 and Section 6 to ensure that if there is a third offender, and we are currently investigating that at the moment, we will make sure that we prevent any further activity. Section 6 allows us to investigate today's incident. There is a massive police response, and I think as journalists you have seen how quickly and promptly the police responded. I'm incredibly proud of the professionalism of our police and emergency service responders. They have done a fantastic job. Unfortunately, it's only several years ago that Bondi occurred, at Bondi Junction. We have learnt a lot from that, and tonight ambulance and police and other emergency responders acted promptly and professionally to do a great job there. We will have a significant investigation. Our Counter-Terrorism Command will lead this investigation with investigators from the State Crime Command. No stone will be left unturned. This type of disgraceful activity, this wanton use of violence, the taking of innocent lives is unacceptable to New South Wales. It's not our way of life. I've been very clear since I've been the Commissioner that as a police force, we won't stand for this type of violence. I'm personally offended. You have seen that the police have already taken prompt action. The Premier has mentioned one of the offenders is deceased, the second one is in serious condition at hospital. We will focus to ensure that there is no further threat to the public. Could I ask, but this is a time of calm. This is a time where I want to make sure that there is no retribution. The police are investigating thoroughly. We have acted promptly. We have taken decisive action. Could I just ask for calm in the community? Allow the police to do our job. We will work closely with community and I'll continue to provide updates about the investigation as they go on. Thank you. I'll hand over to the Minister and then happy to take questions. Sorry.
Do we have an age range of the victims? I've got 6 early days, but not those deceased.
No, very early, sir. I don't have those details at the moment. As you can imagine, there has been a fair dislocation. The ambulance service responded brilliantly. They've had to convey people right around the city to numerous hospitals. So at this stage, we don't have those details.
Commissioner, there's 12 people.
Sorry, can I just ask one at a time? Sorry.
Commissioner, do you have any intelligence about the 2 shooters?
We're working through that at the moment. Obviously, part of the declaration is because I have information about the deceased shooter. It's not something I'm prepared to give at the moment. It will be part of the investigation, but we will work tirelessly through our counter-terrorism command to make sure we investigate all of the circumstances.
Commissioner, the 12 people that are deceased, do they include the gunman that is deceased, or is the gunman additional to that 12?
We've set up the 12 deceased at the moment. This is a really fluid situation. I would like to provide more certainty, but certainly the numbers that we are talking at the moment include the gunman.
Were any children among the deceased?
At this stage, I don't believe so. However, I do believe that a child was transported to hospital. Again, I don't want to give information that turns out to be incorrect. It is very early. We know that there has been a number of people turn up to hospital. We've had 29 others transported, and we know people are still turning up there.
What gives you reason to think there might be a third gunman if gun enforcement?
Unfortunately, in these sort of circumstances, we get information from a range of areas. We tend to be as safe as we possibly can so that we know that we have 2 definite offenders, but we want to make sure the community is safe. So we will run down this investigation. The reason that we have so many investigators out tonight is we can make sure that that happens. The fact that we've declared this as a terrorist incident, we've provided special powers, is to make sure that we prevent any further. I cannot confirm there is a third offender, but I want to make sure there's no stone left unturned.
Some news outlets are reporting a home in Bonnie Riggers being raided. Can you confirm that?
No, I'm well aware on social media that an identity of a person believed to be one of the gunmen has been circulated there. When I ask for calm, that is really important. This is not a time for retribution. This is a time to allow the police to do their duty. So police are responding to make sure that all of the community is safe. That is our role.
What can you tell us about public order riots, squad officers raiding homes? Is that happening right now?
What I'd say to you is that we have police right around the city at the moment to make sure that all of the community is safe. I don't want to go into too much specific activity. Our job is to respond to intelligence we get, respond to information, but make sure the community is safe. So unashamedly, we do have a lot of public order and riot squad and other police out on the streets at the moment to make sure there is calm. This disgraceful act will not go unpunished. Sorry, one question.
Were there any additional police resources around the Bondi area or Dover Heights in case there was any problems?
There certainly were police patrolling that area. We were well aware and we worked closely with the Jewish community in terms of Hanukkah. The Jewish community has its own security group that we work very closely with, so there were police present. The fact there was such prompt action taken demonstrates the police were present.
Is there still an active threat tonight?
Sorry?
Is there still an active threat?
No, what I've said before is that we are aware definitely of 2 offenders at the moment. One of those is deceased, one is in hospital at the moment. We want to investigate thoroughly so that if there is a third offender or any other people are linked to this matter, we will investigate them and take action against them.
What intelligence do you have about this third person? Was he there with a gun? Is he outside of the area? What intelligence do you have? I think people need calm and worried that there's someone on the run still.
It's way too early to give that information. The community can be very reassured that the police responded quickly. The police have responded in numbers. We have a significant investigation underway at the moment. We will be following all people linked to those gunmen that we know, and we'll take action to keep the community safe. The community can rest assured that the police will take positive action to keep them safe.
What weapons were used and were they sourced illegally? And what can you tell us about the improvised explosive device found under the bridge?
It's way too early to give any description of the firearms other than to say that they were long arms. where they came from, their background, how they came to be in possession of the offenders. It's too early to say. As part of the investigation and shortly after the shooting occurred, police located a vehicle in Campbell Parade at Bondi, which we believe has several improvised explosive devices. We have our rescue bomb disposal unit there at the moment working on that.
What is the latest on that?
It's still underway at the moment.
Are they
Were any of
viable
these
devices or?
It's too early to say that. As I said, we've got our rescue and bomb disposal unit there. They will take the appropriate action. They're experts in their field.
Were either of the two individuals, the deceased and the one in custody, known to authorities before this evening?
Only little on the offender that's deceased at the moment. I won't go into their background. That's obviously part of the investigation. Certainly form part of my consideration as whether to consider this to be a terrorist event.
Were
Because of
any
what?
of the gunmen licensed to hold firearms, and do we know whether they were known to ASIO or New South Wales Police?
It's too early in that investigation.
Why did you declare it a terrorist attack?
There was a range of circumstances. Obviously, the fact that it's the first day of Hanukkah, the types of weapons, the offenders, some of the other items we found at the scene. As I said, we have found an improvised explosive device in a car, which is linked to the deceased offender. So there's a range of circumstances, and obviously the Jewish community has a right to feel safe. We will take serious action.
Commissioner, you knew about the gun that was deceased. How did you miss this attack? No.
I don't even think that's a reasonable question. What I said is that we are aware of the person. That does not mean there was any specific threat posed by that person. If the police had had intelligence that there was a risk to the community or to this event, we would have taken significant action. This is a tragic event. This is not the time to be pointing the finger. There will be a thorough investigation. My main focus is to make sure that the community feels safe and know that the police are there to support them and keep them safe.
Commissioner, how can two people with guns, improvised explosive devices in a car, organise something like this, potentially with a third person, and police do not know that it's coming?
Well, I think if you think about the size of the community here, our police do a fantastic job. Day in, day out, you see the work that we do to prevent crimes happening. We need intelligence to actually do that. As I said, the person that we know has very, very little knowledge to the police. So he's not someone that we would have automatically been looking at this time.
What can you tell us about the two injured police officers? Do you have their ranks? Has anyone been able to speak to them?
I wouldn't want to provide those details at the moment. We've obviously got next of kin coming down. Their loved ones will be with them. I want to make sure that they have some time in peace before we do. It's too early to provide that information.
Do you have a condition report at all?
Serious, verging on critical, and both are in surgery on top.
Commissioner, I understand a rabbi is among those who've been killed. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that, sorry.
This might be one for the Premier. Have you spoken to the Prime Minister, and is there any indication the national terror threat level will be raised?
I have spoken to the Prime Minister. I'll leave that up to him to inform the public of. But he offered all the support to New South Wales, and we both reflected on how shocking and terrifying this evil attack was.
Premier, what would you say to people who are scared right now?
Look, I understand that. This is a shocking event. It's not common in Australia, and it's all the more shocking because of that. What I can say is that there will be a comprehensive police response. Anything New South Wales Police needs in terms of resources, we will provide them. If there's changes that need to be made, we will do that immediately. I mean, we need to be in a situation where we're sending a clear and unambiguous message to the Jewish community, in fact every Australian that lives in this state, that these horrible acts of violence will never be tolerated, and anyone who perpetrates them we will throw the book at. Anyone who's thinking about it will be thoroughly investigated. This is a terrible night for Sydney, but I think it's important to say we can't let these evil people divide Australia up. We need to be in a situation where, as shocking as this is, there are still wonderful people in the Bondi community right throughout New South Wales. That's what these terrorists want. They want Australians divided and at each other's throats, and we can't let that happen. In fact, we won't let that happen.
Premier, at least two people, potentially three, have worked together to organise a mass shooting event with shotguns at Bondi Beach. There's been IEDs in a car planted nearby. Further to what I asked the Commissioner, has there been a failure here? Has there been a failure in intelligence or policing?
Look, I mean, I think in the circumstances it's reasonable that both the government and the police conduct an investigation. There will be, of course, a full inquiry. But when you're looking at several hours after this horrifying event, it's important that police focus on community safety right now and ensuring that the immediate vicinity is locked down, that the public, those who've been injured, are transported to hospital, and that there's not an immediate ongoing threat. There'll be plenty of times for a thorough investigation, and I can assure the public that that will take place. But we need to let the police do their job tonight.
Is there any intelligence shared from the Australian Federal Police?
I'm not going to get into that.
Is there any information to the motive of the offenders beyond it being a terrorist incident?
No, I mean, the fact that it was the first day of Hanukkah, that there were Jewish families celebrating as a community in Bondi, it's shocking and terrible and self-evidently a terrorist act.
The police operation is still continuing around Bondi, obviously. I mean, it is getting late for some people. Will schools be open in that area tomorrow? Practically, what should people be thinking about tomorrow? Still staying home, staying out of that area. What is the advice for people?
My understanding is that private schools are closed tomorrow. The end of the year has already begun for many of the private schools, particularly in Sydney's eastern suburbs. But the government schools, the Secretary Murat Disda is looking at options for those communities. We'll communicate that as soon as possible. If you're a parent, particularly in that community, please look at your school social media account in the morning to work out whether schooling's going ahead or not. Police, it's obviously an ongoing situation. Police need to provide security, but if we can put in place a situation where there's not many sites, then that'd be a good thing tomorrow morning.
Mr. Minns, you've spoken about the bravery on the beach tonight. What are your thoughts on, there's a video of a member of
In the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching Deep Dive on NewsX World. Tonight we're breaking down a major shift in global diplomacy that could reshape international power dynamics as we know it. Washington has been abuzz with the notion of a new global forum, what's being called the Core 5 or C5, potentially replacing traditional multilateral organizations like the G7. Now, the idea has stirred controversy and raised questions across the globe. What exactly is the Core 5 and why is the US considering such a radical departure from established norms? The Core 5 is a proposed platform that would include the United States, China, Russia, India and Japan. These countries, all major powers with populations over 100 million, would meet regularly on key issues. The concept suggests sidelining Europe and creating a new, more pragmatic forum focused on global issues that directly affect these powers, starting with security in the Middle East. India's inclusion is particularly interesting. It would find itself in a delicate position, balancing its strategic ties with the US while also engaging with China and Russia. The question is, how will India navigate such tensions? The US seems to be moving away from traditional European alliances. And in fact, the G7, which has long been a key platform for economic and security coordination, is feeling the impact. Tension within the G7 has grown, particularly over trade, China and Russia. While the group still tackles global issues like Ukraine and energy security, the US and others are questioning its effectiveness. This shift is fueling the rise of the Core 5, a potential alternative to the G7. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Core 5 seems to sideline Europe entirely, reflecting a broader trend in US foreign policy. The White House reportedly envisions Europe facing civilizational erasure due to immigration and societal changes, potentially positioning Russia as the dominant power on the continent. This would be a dramatic departure from past US policies, where European unity was seen as a pillar of Western strength. Reports suggest that this idea gained momentum after the US began emphasizing a shift towards deal-making diplomacy, prioritizing direct engagement with major powers over the traditional multilateral frameworks. That's why the Core 5 could be seen as a natural evolution of Trump's America First policy, centered around pragmatic, power-based politics rather than value-based alliances. And let's not forget Trump's style. He's always had a fondness for working with strongmen, focused on what's best for the US and sometimes sidelining traditional European and international allies. This Core 5 would be right up his alley. And then there's the potential for conflict within the Core 5 itself. Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President are locked in a fierce competition for a global influence. Most recently, China and Japan have been involved in a diplomatic tiff of its own in regards to the recognition of Taiwan. Meanwhile, the Russia-Ukraine war rages on. Energy sites are under attack while the civilian death toll keeps mounting. Now, how will these countries, each with distinct regional goals, work together in a forum like C5? What happens when their interests clash? And what will this mean for global diplomacy, and what role will the United States play as it leaves Europe and old allies behind? Joining us on this discussion is now Madhav Nalapit, who's an editorial director with the Sunday Guardian, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you, Mr. Nalapit, for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out to speak to us in this detailed discussion. I'll start by asking my first question to you, sir. Could the Core 5 replace the G7 as a global power forum, and how will other global powers, especially Europe and the NATO, react to the Core 5?
Well, look, I'd like to point out that the gross national product of the European countries is steadily falling compared to the gross national product of the Asian countries, which are already much bigger. And that disproportion is only going to increase because your countries are hardly growing at all. The problem is that, now it's not the G7 anymore, it's the G6. Trump has in effect pulled away from it. But the fact is that this G6, they're obsessed with one issue, and that's Ukraine. And they're therefore obsessed with Russia. Whereas Donald Trump has got a very correct point of view, the same point of view as Prime Minister Modi, that Russia should be brought in to an alliance, not the stranger, not be the enemy, the way it's being treated in Europe. So I personally feel it's a very good idea, except that, as you correctly point out, I don't think the Chinese belong to that. I would help make it a quad, 4 countries minus China, for a simple reason. The Chinese want to compete and overcome the United States in very many metrics, including gross national product. And if they do so, it's going to be a very, very difficult situation for the US and especially its economy, which Donald Trump is focusing on. Therefore, in my view, 5 is one too many, but 4 is excellent. And if you can get the Russians to move, I think it'll be a great idea. And I think there's no reason why they shouldn't move, because the Chinese have not helped them at all in the Ukraine war, barring, of course, giving them money in exchange for Russian oil. The fact of the matter is that the Chinese have got excellent relations with all the European countries that are fighting Russia, that are enemies of Russia, and the Russians are noticing it. So very honestly, it's a very good idea, except to call it the best idea would be to make it a quad and exclude China from that list.
All right, sure. And for years, the US and the West have positioned themselves as the global champions of civilization and human rights, often even interfering and in the affairs of other nations. How does the West sidelining in the Core 5 challenge this narrative and expose the hypocrisy in its self-proclaimed role as the moral compass of the world?
Look, in the first place, I don't think there's any inferior or superior in the international order. I don't think people of any one ethnicity, European ancestral ethnicity, can consider themselves to be a cut above the rest of the world. No question about it. Several countries in the rest of the world are doing far better than the Europeans are doing. And if you look at the United States, you'll find that all ethnicities are doing quite well there. And it's a tribute to the United States that this is happening. It's also happening in Britain. It's also happening in some other countries as well. So I'd like to say that this idea that Europe is the central piece of global gravity is wrong. Today it's Asia that's the centerpiece of global gravity. And from that point of view, Trump is perfectly right in moving from priority to the European continent to the Asian continent. I think this basically reflects that for a simple reason that Russia is both an Asian and a European power, and the US is independent in its own right. So the fact of the matter is only looking reality squarely in the eye, and I think it's a very good move if it is carried to its conclusion, provided, as I said, with the caveat.
As Prime Minister, I say, on behalf of all Australians to the Jewish community, we stand with you, we embrace you, and we reaffirm tonight that you have every right to be proud of who you are and what you believe. You have the right to worship and study and live and work in peace and safety, and you enrich us as a nation. You should never have to endure the loss that you have suffered today. You should never know the fear that you know tonight. We will dedicate every resource required to making sure you are safe and protected. You are Australian, and all Australians are with you today and every day. My fellow Australians, I say tonight that there are nights that tear at our nation's soul. In this moment of darkness, we must be each other's light. Hold on to the true character of the country that we love. Australia is stronger than the cowards who attacked innocent people today. Australia is braver than those who seek to make us afraid. Australia will never submit to division, violence or hatred. We will see justice done, and we will come through this together. I'd ask Acting Deputy Commissioner Ryan to make some comments, and then Director General Burgess.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Firstly, our thoughts go out to the families and communities that have been affected by this senseless attack today. The AFP stands next to the New South Wales Police and with ASIO in our joint counter-terrorism arrangements, and we'll put all resources we can, all our specialist powers, all our specialist resources towards ensuring that this matter is investigated as thoroughly as possible. In relation to the Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, we have heard that there has been a declaration of a terrorist incident that will enable the AFP, along with ASIO and New South Wales Police, to use specialist powers in relation to this investigation. I don't wish to speculate in relation to any of the information that is currently known. This matter is ongoing. It is in its early stages, and we will continue to work with New South Wales Police to ensure that it's investigated as best as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Thanks, PM. ASIO was also a member of the Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, and our principal role at this stage is to support the police in their ongoing investigation. But at the same time, as is standard practice for us, we are looking at the identities of the attackers, and where that is known, we're looking to see if there's anyone in the community that has similar intent. It's important to stress at this point we have no indications to that fact, but that is something we have active investigations on. The national terrorism threat level remains at probable. I don't see that changing at this stage. Probable means there is a 50% chance of an act of terror, and unfortunately we've seen that horrific act occur tonight in Australia. Thank you.
A few questions. Charles?
Prime Minister, you called this terror. Are you aware of any other terror threats at the moment, and what's your message to Jewish Australians who may not feel safe in Australia tonight?
My message to Jewish Australians is that your fellow Australians stand with you tonight in condemning this act of terror, in condemning this outrage. I've had a number of conversations with people tonight. One of the Jewish community leaders said to me that we know where anti-Semitism leads, that it leads to an attack on everyone, not just Jewish Australians. And this attack at Bondi Beach, of all places, a place of celebration, a place where people, particularly in Sydney, but from all over the world, come to enjoy each other's company, and to, in this case, at the Bondi Pavilion there. I'm very familiar with that pavilion. This senseless attack is one which is an act of terror. It is aimed at creating fear. But we will stand with the Jewish community and Jewish Australians at this time.
Prime Minister, in light of this attack, is the government going to move on any of the recommendations in the Special Envoy's report on anti-Semitism in Australia?
Yeah, we're continuing to work on all of those issues, including one of the things that you'll see is a request that had previously been made to be included in additional funding for security as well. And I know that it is, this is an incredibly tough time for the community to deal with this. It's important that they don't deal with it alone, that everyone stand with them at this time. And then we'll go fill in then.
Left unchecked, as you were just saying, anti-Semitism leads to terrorism and violence targeting the innocent. Your government has come under criticism in claiming that it has effectively responded to the rise of anti-Semitism in Australia since October 7, 2023. In September, your government recognised a Palestinian state. Your ministers have attacked the Israeli government. Senior ministers refused to visit the sites of the October 7 massacres, and you created a special Islamophobia envoy alongside an anti-Semitism envoy. Have you taken the threat of anti-Semitism seriously, and can you guarantee the safety of Jewish Australians?
Yes, we have taken it seriously, and we've continued to act. We've continued to work with Jewish community leaders. We've continued to take all the advice from the security agencies to put in place special measures, and we'll continue to do so. Phil?
For Mr. Burgess, for Deputy Commissioner Ryan.
Yep.
Mr. Burgess, you've been warning for a long time about the risk of this sort of attack, localised extremism. Were any of these people on your watch list? I think the New South Wales Commissioner just said they're aware of one of these characters. Keeping an eye on him. Do any jump out of your radar?
So it's too early to give you any more details, Phil, other than to say, like the New South Wales Police, one of these individuals was known to us, but not in an immediate threat.
All right, viewers, that was a crucial statement being given by the Australian officials and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Some key information has come out from the briefing of the Australian Police, New South Wales Police Commissioner as well, who says that 12 people were killed and has declared the incident as a terrorist attack. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said that Australia stands with its Jewish community, and I now like to request Charles Thompson, Australian journalist, to join us in this discussion here. Charles, of course, Albanese giving support to the Jewish community in Australia, but isn't it too little too late at this point in time, given that the rabbi had said earlier that the attack was foreseeable, warnings were ignored?
Unfortunately, I must agree 100% with the rabbi. It's a very sad event, and my heart goes out to all the people who have died and their families. It now appears I'm sorry, I just feel very sad about this event, and it was a predictable event, and a lot more could have been done prior to make sure that this wasn't the outcome that it's now happened.
All right, thanks Charles for speaking to us, but do continue to remain with us. Let's give our viewers some crucial details that have come out from the statements of the New South Wales Police Commissioner. First of all, he said that 12 individuals were killed and 29 people have been transported to various hospitals, which include 2 police officers as well. Of course, the police have declared the incident a terrorist attack at the Bondi Beach that was holding its Hanukkah festival. Remember, viewers, the attack took place at the first day of Hanukkah, which is a Jewish festival. And Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has confirmed that the Jewish community was indeed attacked by the attackers there at Bondi Beach, attack on people who had gathered to celebrate the Hanukkah festival on the first day of the festival. The police in its statement said it acted swiftly, promptly, and are probing the incident. Meanwhile, they have asked the Australians to maintain calm and said that this is not the time for retribution. Police have also said that while there is no exact information on the weapons that were used by the 2 attackers, but long arms were used for the shooting incident. They also said that there is no information as of now whether there was a third attacker as well. But as of now, among of the 2 attackers, one has been shot dead on the spot. Another one is in a critical condition. He was attacked but continues to remain in critical condition. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says that the country stands with the Jewish community and says in this moment of darkness, Australians will be each other's light. He says Australia will never submit to division, violence or hatred. So a very crucial statement coming in from the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese. And I'd now like to go back to Charles, who continues to stay with us. Charles, extremely unfortunate that the people who had gathered on the first day of the Hanukkah festival to celebrate the event at the Bondi Beach were attacked in this manner. Long arms were used by the attackers. So very shocking that the attackers went on carrying those long arms on the Bondi Beach, where you said it's very hard to carry such weapons. In Australia, like you said, it's not easy to get a weapon that easily without a license.
Yes, and it was totally predictable. And what's so sad about this event is that it looks like the Jewish community had already warned the Australian government, and the Australian government wasn't listening. Now it's a bit late now and a bit rich now for the Prime Minister to say that we're with the Jewish community.
Right.
The Prime Minister has to fess up and now guarantee that laws will change and no longer will it be permissible to single out the Jewish community in any way or form for protests.
All right. And how are you seeing these statements now being made by the Australian police, who have gone on to declare the incident a terrorist attack? Will it strengthen their probe and take stringent action against not just the attackers, but also probably set an example out of the incident so that none such is repeated?
I think under Australian law, the police have to make a careful decision before they declare it as a terrorist attack. Once they do declare it as a terrorist attack, which they've done now, it brings in place a number of facilities to the police so that they can more diligently and particularly investigate all the issues, all the people, without worrying about some of the pedantics of regular laws. And this is absolutely imperative, given the number of people who have lost their life, given the fact that this was predictable, and given the fact that this was done in a place where there was already security present. It was already understood that something could happen there. So on all counts, it's absolutely shocking and horrendous. One can't blame the police for this. This solely lies with the government and the politicians that run Australia. They were slack, they were not listening to the Jewish community, and now all of us have had to suffer. And this event is tragic beyond words. I'm sure every Australian at this moment is feeling sad and with tears, and is feeling for the families of the people they have lost.
All right, now although Albanese has said Australia will not submit to division, but do you foresee any stern reaction coming from the Jewish community there?
No, the issue is that the Prime Minister has to speak to the Jewish community and get the Jewish community on side. And then the Jewish community has to come out and tell all Australians that we agree going forward with what the new rules and regulations are about protests. You see, it's been going on too long. It's tragic that there was a problem in Israel. It's tragic there is a problem in Palestine. But these problems should not be in Australia and not causing the deaths of so many people. So there just has to come an end to this. So it's really up to the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister and the Home Minister to bring out new laws, new restrictions, and join with the Jewish community to make sure that such an event can never happen again on the shores of Australia.
All right, thank you, Charles, for speaking to us. For now, viewers, we continue to track the attack. Every update, every moment we continue to bring to you. But for now, let's shift our focus to now news coming in from Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling for a dignified peace